Well, hello. Guess what? It's time for hemp. It really is. So let's kick off the show and let everybody know how important it is to end cannabis prohibition.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.
Hey, Bob. What's up, man?
I'm just surfing all over the web, trying to find some info on medical marijuana and the best strains of cannabis, advice for growers.
Looks like you're having a hard time, bro.
There's gotta be a million websites out there.
True, but you really only need one website to find out what you need. It'll save you a bunch of time.
Sounds great. What is it?
Check out Cannafo.com. Cannafo.com.
That's right, Tommy and Bob. Cannafo.com is the world's first online directory, marketplace, news portal, growing advice resource, and social media platform for all things cannabis.
Dude, where's that voice coming from?
You hear that too? Maybe we ought to cut back a little.
Cannafo.com is the Google, Facebook, and Craigslist of cannabis. It even has its own social media platform. Cannafo.com puts everything cannabis in one place for consumers, business, and growers. Cannafo.com is a free service where you can find over 9,000 different strains of cannabis.
Whoa!
Shop cannabis classifieds and much, much more. Cannafo.com. Visit today and get in the know with Cannafo.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Right now, it's time for hemp.
It really is time for hemp, and that is fun. I tell you, we have a lot of fun here at the Big Broadcasting Network trying to end cannabis prohibition. Is a very serious thing. But, you know, if you're not doing your job right, then you're not having fun. And we seem to be doing our job right. We seem to be getting a lot of ears hearing the truth about cannabis being a fantastic plant that makes it possible to create over 50,000 different creature products that we, as a species, just love to have around. Little things like food or medicine or shelter or clothing, those kinds of things. And because it's such a valuable commodity as a plant, there was even a time when you could pay your taxes with bales of hemp. You could even pay off of debts like grocery stores or with farmers or personal debts with bales of cannabis, because people could take cannabis and then with the seed in there, they could use it for the oil for their lamps and to cook with and so many other things, and they could use the stalks to make, oh my gosh, all kinds of great things, from clothing to paper to, oh jeepers, just do a Google research and see all the wonderful things that cannabis can make. We do have a big show today, a really big show today. If you're over 100, you'll recognize that invitation. If you're under 50, you probably won't. That was Ed Sullivan. A little blast from the past. But we got a big show today. We got Paul Stanford doing the news. I'm a joint host on the Cannabis Common Sense show that Paul does. And Paul does a little news update at the beginning of his broadcast. So we're going to rebroadcast that on our show, so that if anybody missed it, they still had a chance to get caught up on what's going on in the cannabis movement that Paul wanted to share. And then we've got information about what's going to be in our news feed today, which is our way of sharing information globally about what's happening globally to the people in the global cannabis and the global marijuana and the global hemp movement through our global broadcasting network. I don't know if you've caught on to the idea, but we here at Cannabis Common Sense and Time for Hemp, we're global. And but we're still needing to have you help us raise our voice so that people all around the world can hear how important it is to end the cannabis prohibition. Well, you know, like I said, we are trying to keep these programs down to a low roar, so to speak, as far as time-wise, because many of you download these into your smartphones and into your handhelds and on the go, and you've only got a few minutes in between classes or appointments or bus stops or whatever it is that your busy day has you moving on. And we want to make certain that you do get a chance to get up to date with what's going on in the cannabis movement. So we're going to try to keep these short. Sometimes, even though we try to keep it short, the only thing that's short are the segments inside the segments. But we are trying to keep them under an hour, and we're going to get better and better as we produce more and more. So, well, anyway, I want to kick off the show with some information about what's going to be found in our news feed. If you don't see it there right now, it'll be there very shortly. It'll be there sometime today. And then if you find it, like it, please make comments underneath it. That way our sponsors know that people are paying attention to the post and that they are interacting with us and that there's a reason to support this network and to support this message. And go to our sponsors' websites and let our sponsors know how important it is you think cannabis prohibition needs to end, how important that is. And if you're going to let people know about that message, you might also let them know about our sponsors. If you go to our sponsors' websites, it would be nice if you let them know that you heard about them here on the Time for Hemp show. And also make it a point to check out some of our other Time for Hemp videos. We've got May Nut in the back past, and we got Chris Conrad in the past, and our archives there on Facebook. And you'll find a lot of great interviews that we've done over the years being shared in these broadcasts that are pretty informative. Like Chris Conrad, when I had him on the first time on the TV show, he was talking about all the great things you could do with cannabis, and he was promoting what was known as the BAC, the Business Alliance for Commerce and Hemp. And it was an organization to bring together hemp businesses from around the world to help educate people about all the wonderful products that could be made from it and all the reasons why it needs to be a legal, lawful plant to use and how insane it is for anybody to outlaw this plant. I mean, really, think about that. Why would you outlaw a plant that makes you healthy? Why would you outlaw a plant that provides for you food? You know, the food aspect of this plant, people overlook. There was 3 or 4 famines in history that people managed to survive through because they ate hemp porridge. And hemp seed, the oil in the hemp seed, the DNA in hemp seed is pretty much like the molecular structure of our human blood. And that's why when you eat hemp porridge, it is really healthy for your body, your mind, your spirit, and your soul. Of course, to make your spirit and your soul happy, you do more than eat it. Just saying. Sometimes you do more than eat it. But, well, anyway, I do want to make it as short as possible. I don't want to ramble on. You get me on the soapbox of how wonderful cannabis is, I'll be here all day. And we've got a 24-hour day, 7-day a week, all cannabis, all broadcasting network that you can listen to our live stream on, that I have to keep the live stream going. And we've got videos on YouTube and Tumblr and SoundCloud and iHeartRadio. We're on Roku TV. So I got a lot of irons in the fire that I got to take care of, including what is happening on our news feed. I want to say thank you to Jay Nair Harden. I appreciate all Jay Nair. You work your fanny off keeping the news feeds up to date, and we love you. And with that said, I'm going to hush up, and I'm going to let one of our field reporters share with you some of the contents that you will be finding on our news feed today when you go to our Twitter or our Facebook or our LinkedIn or our Google Plus news feeds. And if there's anything there that you see that you like, please share us with your friends.
Hello, I'm Judy Swallows, one of the roving reporters on TIME-4-HEMP. As a journalist, I can certainly tell you it is fantastic to be a member of this growing team. One of the headlines in our Twitter and Facebook news feeds today is about how industrial hemp could get federal approval. Legislation to remove hemp from the Controlled Substances Act has a good chance of finding a home in the Farm Bill this year. That's according to Representative Kevin Kramer, who said that this would pave the way for increased cultivation of this specialty crop in all 50 states, including North Dakota and Montana, both of which have climates ideally suited to growing it. There are a couple of things that are very important, not the least of which is that Bob Goodlatte, who introduced the bill, is a former chairman of the Agriculture Committee and the Judiciary Committee. If you happen to get a chance to read this report and like it, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, make it a point to visit time4hemp.com and listen to our live stream often. We are the only 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week all cannabis all the time broadcast on iHeartRadio. I'm Judy Swallows on the Time-4-Hemp Broadcasting Network. That's it for me today. Now here is Paul Stanford, host of Cannabis Common Sense, with a news update.
Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you this week. Over in the wings is Mr. John Cornett, ready to play us a tune. You got a Rasta song tonight, John?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like that, yeah.
Irie. Next to me is that kindly crazy, definitely wild, Mr. Casper Leach.
Happy Friday, and tonight the role of Casper Leach is being performed by Sally Jesse Raphael.
He's pretty goofy, too. So we have our hemp news segment coming up. We'll be taking your phone calls in about 15 or 20 minutes. John will be providing musical accompaniment, some surprise video clips. So stay tuned as we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
Earlier this week, New Jersey's Democrat Senator Cory Booker introduced the Marijuana Justice Act, a bill that, if passed, will legalize cannabis at a federal level and go even further in an effort to remedy many of the failures of the war on drugs. The legislation would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act, ending federal prohibition of the plant. It would also cut federal funding for state law enforcement and prison construction if a state disproportionately arrests or incarcerates low-income individuals and or people of color for marijuana offenses. The bill would allow entities to sue states that disproportionately arrest or incarcerate low-income or people of color. And it prohibits deportations of individuals for marijuana offenses. The bill also provides for a process of expungement and resentencing for marijuana offenses at the federal level. Finally, the bill creates a community reinvestment fund of $500 million to invest in communities most impacted by the war on drugs for programs such as job training, reentry, and community centers. Senator Booker said in a statement, quote, "These marijuana arrests are targeting poor and minority communities, and they're targeting our veterans. We see the injustice of it all. When people of color are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white people, when poor communities are targeted for marijuana enforcement while wealthy white people suffer none of the same oppression, you severely impact communities economically, you create crisis in families, you hurt people's long-term economic potential. This is the right thing to do for public safety and will help reduce our overflowing prison population." This is one of those issues where it's not about if we end prohibition of marijuana, it's about when. Please help me make that time now, end quote, said New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Our next story is also from Washington, D.C. The Senate Committee on Appropriations last Thursday adopted an amendment commonly known as the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment that prohibits the Department of Justice from using appropriated funds to prosecute those in compliance with their state's medical cannabis laws. Representative Sam Farr of California, who co-sponsored the amendment when it first passed in 2014, retired from Congress last year. Portland's own Representative Earl Blumenauer stepped in as the lead House Democrat pushing the provision. Offered by Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont, the ranking member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, the provision provides the Senate's version of the Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Appropriations Act for the fiscal year 2018. The amendment was adopted by a voice vote. Representative Rohrabacher said, quote, "I applaud Senator Leahy's efforts to ensure the continued protection of patients who use marijuana for medicinal purposes in accordance with their state's laws. After pushing this amendment for well over a decade, I'm encouraged to see the consistent and growing support for this approach. It's just not right to prosecute individuals who are acting within the bounds of their state's medical marijuana laws, especially considering that overwhelming majority of Americans throughout the states disapprove of their tax dollars being spent this way," end quote. When asked if he's expecting a fight on the floor where he'll be forced to offer the amendment, Rohrabacher said he hopes there isn't one, quote, "But if there is, clearly we will win," end quote. Since the appropriations rider must be renewed regularly, Rohrabacher has introduced the Respect State Marijuana Laws Act of 2017, also known as H.R. 975, which aims to extend the protections to recreational states and make the protections permanent in nature by amending the Controlled Substances Act directly. The legislation would make state legal marijuana activity legal under federal law. The bill currently enjoys the broad support of 12 Republican and 12 Democratic co-sponsors. Unusual these days. Former National Football League players Troy Smith and Eric Metcalf are pursuing one of the 60 dispensary licenses that Ohio will be issuing later this year. Smith, the 2006 Heisman Trophy winner, who was a 5th-round pick for the Carolina Ravens, has said that head trauma he suffered while playing professional football is one of the reasons he's involved in cannabis dispensaries. He said, quote, "Sports is a great thing to watch when you're snacking on chicken wings, but it's dead serious. We need to pay more attention to it and be more delicate," Smith said, end quote, adding that he is certain medical cannabis can be helpful for people with brain injuries. Smith and Metcalf have partnered with Jim Buchanan, a Seattle recreational marijuana store owner who used to live in Cleveland. Last month, the players gave public comment on draft regulations for dispensaries in Ohio. According to Ohio law, people must have at least one of 21 medical conditions to qualify for a doctor's recommendation to use medical cannabis. Cancer and chronic traumatic encephalopathy are 2 of those conditions, but concussions are not. State regulators are still working through the details of the Ohio program, which must be fully operational by September 8th of next year, 2018, according to the Ohio state law. The state has received 185 applications for 24 marijuana grow licenses last month. A popular game called Cards Against Humanity an adult-themed party card game company out of Chicago, is putting some cash behind efforts to legalize recreational cannabis use in Illinois. To date, Cards for Humanity has donated $70,000 to the efforts to legalize cannabis in Illinois. Representative Kelly Cassidy, a state representative in Illinois and sponsor of the bill to regulate cannabis for adult use, is a fan of the card game. Representative Cassidy said, "I even played it in Springfield with some of our colleagues. But part of the fun is that we know we're all letting our hair down a bit. So I'm going to honor the anonymity that Cards Against Humanity provides. It's an opportunity for some great laughs with friends. The biggest hurdles are going to be education and making sure in some way that elected officials understand that their constituents really want this," end quote. Jen Bain, the game community manager for Cards Against Humanity, said, quote, in a statement, "The group will continue to donate proceeds from the sale of a $5 weed pack expansion to the game to end cannabis prohibition in Illinois." According to Jen, he said, quote, "Prohibition didn't work before and it doesn't work now. And that's why we really do see interesting partnerships on this," end quote. Chris Lindsay, formerly of Montana, working with the Marijuana Policy Project Senior Legislative Counsel, said cannabis prohibition has been a crime against humanity. Recent polling data from the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute shows that 66% of Illinois voters support regulating and taxing cannabis. Out of Austria, the co-administration of cannabidiol, or CBD, with the prescription drug riluzole, marketed as Rilutech, is associated with the delayed onset of ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, according to the case report published in the Journal of General Practice. A researcher reported that the administration of 300 milligrams of CBD twice daily was associated with limited progression of various ALS symptoms in a single patient. The authors wrote, quote, "It's concluded that co-medication with CBD may be able to slow down the progression of some, but not all the symptoms of motor neuron disease," end quote. Preclinical data indicates that cannabinoids possess neuroprotective properties that may hold promise in the treatment of brain diseases like ALS and multiple sclerosis. However, clinical trials assessing the efficacy of cannabis treatment in ALS patients has yet to be conducted. This study, co-medication with cannabidiol may slow the progression of motor neuron disease, a case report, appears in the Journal of General Practice. Last story tonight is out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. The regular use of cannabis by young people is not associated with hippocampal volume alterations in the brain, according to case-controlled longitudinal data published online in the journal Psychopharmacology. Investigators from the Netherlands and the United Kingdom conducted magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, scans of patients' brains. The authors reported, quote, "Compared to controls, cannabis users did not show hippocampal volume alterations at either baseline or follow-up. Hippocampal volume increased over time in both cannabis users and controls, following similar trajectories of increase. Cannabis dose and age of onset of cannabis use did not affect the hippocampal volume." The authors concluded, quote, "Continued heavy cannabis use did not affect hippocampal neuroanatomical changes in early adulthood. This data suggests that cannabis users show the same developmental trends as normative samples, and that heavy cannabis use in this group may not necessarily interfere with hippocampal changes in neuroanatomy in early adulthood," end quote. The findings are consistent with other recent studies finding that the use of alcohol, but not cannabis, is negatively associated with specific structural changes in the developing brain. The full text of this study, longitudinal study of hippocampal volumes in heavy cannabis users, appears in the Journal of Psychopharmacology. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. Now Mr. John Cornett is ready to sing and play his guitar.
Oh, yes, sir. I think I can do this. I never heard this song until this afternoon. It's called The Roots of It. And it's by a man named Yui. I don't know where he's from, but anyway, it goes kind of like this. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. If you know the truth of it, then you will know the roots truth of it. If you know the roots of it, then you will know the root truth of it. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Now, they have been hiding the truth for so long, trying to let people using herb is wrong. It's been there for 10,000s of years. Now it's time to drive away those fears. So come on, people, open up your ears. That's why we're singing it loud and clear. If you know the truth of it, then you will know the use of it. If you know the truth of it, then you will know the roots of it. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, hey, hey. This is the cannabis song. Bob Marley said, excuse me while I light my spliff, knowing that the cannabis is a precious gift, because they told us so many times lies. For some people, it might not be a surprise to see my spliff as a blessing in disguise. Time for the herb to win the Nobel Prize. If you know the truth of it, then you will know the use of it. If you know the roots of it, then you will know the truth in it. Say, hey, hey, hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. So I beg you not to turn your youth into criminals by declaring something good into illegal. It is helpful, it is useful, it is natural. And for your meditation, inspirational. Known all over the world, it's international. Known to Rastaman down to the cardinal. They use it as a holy sacrament, well, spiritual. The only crime about it is illegal. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. If you know the roots of it, then you will know the truth of it. If you know the roots of it, then you will know the truth of it. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, 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 hey. This is the cannabis song. If you know the truth of it, then you will know the roots of it. If you know the roots of it, then you will know the truth of it. Hey, hey, hey. This is the cannabis song. Hey, hey. This is the cannabis song. Thank you.
Did it. Not bad. So you just heard that today for the first time.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Apparently, you spend your rehearsals getting high, but we certainly appreciate the work that you've done. Thank you. You're welcome.
Speaking of getting high during rehearsal, where have you been? Never mind.
Oh.
We have this sign behind me turned around.
Well, I want to thank Paul Stafford for his hard work. He's been doing Cannabis Common Sense now for 16, 17 years. And I have been the joint host for about 6 years now. It's quite an honor to do the program each week. It's on every Friday night on Portland Community Cable, and it's live. You can call in. It airs in 17 different markets. They burn off a copy after the show and send it out to 17 different markets. It also airs live on their Facebook page, and as well as, let's see, Ustream. And I think there's a couple of other venues where you can watch it live, coast to coast. And that way you can also call in and be part of the audience and ask us our questions. And like I said, I'm the joint host, and I am what I consider the comedy, the levity there. Paul's very smart, very serious, very hardworking activist. I'm a hardworking activist, but I'm a clown. I was born to be silly. I wanted to be a comedian when I grew up, and there's a million comedians out of work, and I am one. Hello. But it is an honor to be part of the marijuana movement, cannabis movement, hemp movement. I got to call it all that thing to make everybody happy, right? But, and speaking of making everybody happy, one of the things that makes my sponsors happy is if you're nice enough to go to their website and go, yo, I heard about you on that funny little program called Time for Hemp. And it's also gracious of you to share us with your friends, because that's how we're going to be found. And it really is important to let the world know that cannabis prohibition sucks.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most avoided strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
There's also a couple of other groovy pieces of information you might find that you want to share with your friends if you come across them in our news feed on the on the Twitter and on the Facebook news feed. And we share them elsewhere too, on LinkedIn and Google+. But our primary outlet, we got a lot of people. We got almost 50,000 people that follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much. And we got a huge number of people who are following us on Facebook. We thank you very much. And of course, at our TIME-4-HEMP.com website, people tune in there. We got anywhere between 8 to 12,000 people at any given time listening to our live stream through iHeartRadio and Tumblr and SoundCloud and iTunes and so on. We want to thank you for sharing us with your friends, but as the big medias are trying to make it more difficult for us little medias to be heard and found, it's more and more important, it really is, that you and your friends share us with you and your friends all around the world. Also, so I want to say also today in our news feed, I don't want to get too sidetracked or we'll never get to this. It's kind of like two ends of the same rope. I don't understand it. We got California town and we've got crap going on in Washington, D.C. with the Attorney General, which no one's surprised, I am sure. But here on our news feed, you will find that there is a large company that has just recently bought a California town, and it's called Nipton, California. It's 60 miles south of Las Vegas, and it's not convenient to very much. And I think you'll find a hotel there, or a trading post, maybe an historical plaque or two, and a whole lot of people just passing through. But there is a company owned by David Gwyworth that made the purchase of this town. It's an 80-acre town, as a matter of fact, and they're going to be turning it into a cannabis place for tourists and for growing and for creating cannabis research and products, and where they got all kinds of big pipe dreams. And so do make it a point to check it out. It's called No Pipe Dream. Cannabis company buys California town, and it's from NPR. Yes, the National Public Reporting Republic or whatever broadcasting network, and give them a 2 thumbs up for getting this information out to the public. And also in our feed underneath, make some kind of comments and interact with us. That also lets our advertisers know that people are paying attention to what we have to share. Well, as I said, we got on one end of the country, or one end of the rope, like this kind of rope, the rope you smoke. We got a town being bought up by a cannabis company that wants to make it a cannabis town and bring in cannabis tourists. On the other end of the United States, we got this clown by the name of Jeff Sessions, who is really trying to do all that he can. You'll find out on Slate. If you go to slate.com, you'll find the article again in our newsfeed. And our newsfeed is on our Tweety, you know, the little birdie, and the Facebook people, and LinkedIn and so on. But Jeff Sessions wants to crack down on marijuana, and he's still not changing his mind. The Attorney General's own experts are recommending that states' experiments with legalization be ignored. But he probably will ignore what I'm saying. The Attorney General's own experts recommend respecting the state's experiments with legalization. In other words, his own experts say, leave everything alone. And Jeff Sessions is so bullheaded that he's probably going to ignore them. So he's got a task force on crime reduction all geared up, and he's got money set aside, and he's got a group of special forces all trained to jump into certain areas of the United States. And he sent out letters to different governors, and he's made it clear to different attorney generals, to different United States unions and state departments that they are going to move forward on making the federal crime of cannabis be enforced. Well, anyway, for those of you who are looking for more information about this, number one, you'll find it in our news feed on the Tweety and on Facebook, and it's called Sessions, which I'm from Indiana, so we say it funny. Sessions marijuana crackdown may still be coming, and it's from Slate magazine, Slate, SLATE.com. Let them know that you appreciate their reporting. Give us a thumbs up or two, and share it with your friends if you like it. And please let Jeff Sessions know that he's a little, touched, and maybe even sending some information. For those of you who don't know how Jeff Sessions thinks and speaks about this topic, here is a little clip that you might find of interest that I reluctantly, but I feel necessary to share with you. And I tell you, this man is really a unique piece of work. That's all I can say. I don't know where they found him. I don't know how they found him. I don't know how he ended up where he's at. I don't know how he's remained so uneducated about this topic and been able to speak and say so many stupid things out loud without somebody pulling him aside and saying, shh, just let people look at you and think they're stupid. Don't open your mouth and prove them right. Oh, well, with that said, here's Jeff.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Senator Sessions. Mr. Wagner, the issue is bigger than the technical matter we're discussing today, in my opinion. This is a huge, huge issue. I was United States Attorney when President Reagan was elected in the early 80s. Half the high school seniors in America had used an illegal drug. That over 12, 15 years went to less than half that, less than 25%. Would you say that was an advantage, a health advantage to young people in America, that drug use declined?
I will stipulate that certainly less drug use is better.
All right. What about marijuana legalization in Colorado? Did you take a public position on that?
I do not take public positions on political issues. I think generally that's a bad policy for U.S. attorneys. We try to maintain our role as the enforcers of law, not the...
Been there. I know the tension on that. But in the past, U.S. attorneys, the drug czar, has opposed it. Does President Obama oppose states adopting legalization of marijuana?
I don't know exactly what positions he's taken with respect to Colorado and Washington.
That's a terrible comment. That the United States attorney that works for the President of the United States does not know whether he opposes or favors legalization of marijuana. He certainly has said some things that indicate he thinks it's a very little problem. But these data show that it is. So you got this huge increase in marijuana-related emergency room visits. This is as obvious as night following day. You make more marijuana, more available. You basically say it's not very dangerous and that young people have a right to participate with it. And others, older people do too. You're going to have more problems, wouldn't you agree?
I certainly think that increases in marijuana use are bad and for public health. I totally agree with that. And I think there's been an increase recently. Certainly here out in Sacramento, my district, our focus is on opioid and heroin increase, which has been quite an unfortunate upturn in overdose prescription pills. I know in the Sacramento area, just in the last 10 days, we've had 9 people die from fentanyl overdoses. And that's
fentanyl,
something which we are...
Heroin or just fentanyl?
No, not heroin. They are apparently prescription drugs that have been laced with fentanyl. And that is something that we've been spending sort of 24/7 the last few weeks.
But just from my experience in dealing with this, we need to set a nationwide understanding about the problem. This is very real. Are you aware that the American Medical Association just last year issued a report that hammered this idea that marijuana is not dangerous, and they were particularly concerned about the mental impacts it has on young people? Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Do you have any doubt about that?
I don't have any doubt about that, Your Honor.
Did the drug czar of the United States of America make any express any opinion to Colorado about the possible dangerous impacts of marijuana legalization in Colorado?
I know the drug czar has been quite articulate about some of the dangers associated with marijuana. In fact, Mr. Botticelli, when he was just before he became drug czar, came out to California with us and participated in some marijuana enforcement operations where we went up into the North State, flew over some very large marijuana grows in the course of our operation. So I know he's been quite committed to supporting us. In fact, he supported an expansion of the HIDA to do more enforcement in our district on marijuana.
Well, what I want to just say to you and to those who might be listening is it's far more important than just the details of whether federal prosecutors start prosecuting marijuana cases in Colorado. Colorado was one of the leading states that started the movement to suggest that marijuana is not dangerous. And we're going to find it, in my opinion, ripple throughout the entire American citizenry, and we're going to see more marijuana use, and it's not going to be good. We're going to see more other drug use, illegal drug use also, which is damaging. I mean, we need grown-ups in charge in Washington to say marijuana is not the kind of thing that ought to be legalized. It ought not to be minimized, that it's in fact a very real danger. You can see the accidents, traffic deaths related to marijuana jumped 20%. These are the kind of things that we're going to see throughout the country, and you'll see cocaine and heroin increase more than it would have, I think, had we not talked about it. Well, is there any sense that Colorado might reevaluate what they've done?
I know that there is a lot of discussion back and forth between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the state authorities in Colorado about issues that we're seeing, issues that we're concerned about. And I understand that the state authorities have been receptive to our concerns. I don't know the details of what they're doing about them, but citing some of the data that Senator Grassley presented earlier, we're concerned about that data, and we're talking to Colorado about it. I know the same is true in California.
I hope you'll speak out. I mean, you're able to, as a citizen of Colorado, to say you think this is dangerous. I work with it every day. I see the danger and damage it does, and I think the president needs to speak out. I think one of his great failures, it's been obvious to me, his lax treatment and comments on marijuana. It's been obvious. It reverses 20 years almost of hostility to drugs. It begun really when Nancy Reagan started the Just Say No program. I made that mention when she passed away. It was a great accomplishment. We moved this country from 50% of high school seniors using a drug, marijuana or other drug, to less than half that. Lives were saved. Young people's futures were saved. And if we go back into this path, we're going to regret it. And you got to have leadership from the top. And I think the drug czar and the DEA leadership understand this. But I'm not sure the president does. I'm not sure the message is getting down to the prosecutors. Mr. Chairman, thank you for hosting this. You've been very astute on this issue for many, many years. You've led this committee, this drug caucus, for many, many years. We made tremendous progress. And I can't tell you how concerning it is for me emotionally and personally to see the possibility that we would reverse the progress that we've made and let it slip away from us. Lives will be impacted. Families will be broken up. Children will be damaged because of the difficulties their parents have. And people may be psychologically impacted the rest of their lives with marijuana. And if they go on to more serious drugs, which tends to happen, you can deny it if you want to, but it tends to happen, there'll be even greater causes.
I can assure you that we're very, I'm a citizen of California, and certainly out there, we're very aggressively prosecuting narcotics cases. I had a press conference last week in a interstate narcotics trafficking case. We prosecuted almost 90 people on marijuana cases in my office last year. And one of my assistant U.S. attorneys in February received the National Prosecutor of the Year award from the HIDA National Association at the National Conference here in Washington for her work in marijuana prosecution. So we are very committed to doing those cases, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. I would just comment that as I was talking to somebody who's experiencing this recently, it was a prevention movement that really was so positive, and it led to this decline. The creating of knowledge that this drug is dangerous, you cannot play with it, it's not funny, it's not something to laugh about, and trying to send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana. And the result of that is to give that away and make it socially acceptable, creates the demand, increased demand that results in people being addicted or impacted adversely. I just hope that we can get our thoughts together on it. I believe Department of Justice needs to be clearer. I believe the president really needs to reassert some leadership on this. I think it's really serious.
Ms. Grover, I just have one question.
Didn't realize that I didn't have my video on. Oh, jeepers. Well, you know, we do have technical problems. Anyway, I want to say, if you have letters that you want to send after seeing what Jeff Sessions just had to say, send those letters to him. Don't send them to me. Send them to the governor of your state even, or the lieutenant governor, anybody that's running for office that can make policy in your area of the woods, and let them know how uninformed that clown is. And you might even send him books. You might send videos. I don't think it'll do any good. He seems to have his head buried in the sand, to say the least. And, and again, we're going to have technical problems here. We do things live. When you do things live, shit happens, right? So, excuse us. I had my mute button on, and I didn't realize it. And because of that, we kicked off this segment with no sound, because I was a clown. But, well, we also have sponsors that make it possible for us to be on this broadcast. So we want you to, if you don't mind, check out their websites. When you're there, let them know that you heard about them here on the big broadcast. It's our sponsors that keep us going, that keep us loud, proud, and strong. And when you let them know that they are being seen and heard, then they're happy to continue to support this Cannabis Prohibition Network. That's what we are. We're anti-cannabis prohibition network. We are heard all over Canada, Japan, England, some parts of Europe. We are heard in France, Japan. We got members of the Japanese community that listen to our programming. And sometimes when I do a Google search on Time-4-HEMP, I'll see our programming popping up on websites that I don't even understand the language. But when I hit the play button, it's the Willie Nelson Show or the Jack Hare Show, or one of the programs that I've done over the years that's informing people in that neck of the woods how important it is to end cannabis prohibition. So that's all we do, is ask you to get involved, whether it be get out in the community, knock on doors, maybe send out flyers and letters, perhaps attend a march or two. The more publicly you support the movement, the more the powers that be realize that they are outnumbered, and they might as well realize that at the voting booth, cannabis brings in more votes than any one candidate does. So it would behoove them to get on the right side of this particular issue. Yeah, I'm from Indiana, so I say the word issue incorrectly, but it's an important issue anyway.
Growsentia has developed Mammoth P, an organically derived soil inoculant that maximizes phosphorus and micronutrient cycling to maximize bud growth, increase yield, and enhance plant health. Mammoth P's patent-pending technology is OMRI certified. The increased levels of phosphorus and other micronutrients result in increased stem strength and a 16% increase in harvest yield. Mammoth P is effective in soil, soilless, and hydroponic systems. This biostimulant microbial product really works synergistically with any nutrient and fertilizers in your management and feeding regime. Incorporate Mammoth P into your feeding protocols as a supplement to any fertilizer program. Mammoth P is being used by growers, commercial and hobbyists throughout the U.S. Go to mammothmicrobes.com to find a store near you, or to order through one of the company's online partners. That's mammothmicrobes.com, scientifically proven to grow mammoth buds.
There's also a couple of other groovy pieces of information you might find that you want to share with your friends if you come across them in our news feed on the on the Twitter. Hello. I think I made comment last week about how Facebook has been doing what they can to make it impossible for activists who are trying to get alternative news into the mainstream news difficult, trying to make the job difficult. YouTube, I think I shared with you, has been making it so that if you're a CNN reporter or an ABC or a CSNBC or whatever, and you do a report on cannabis or hemp, when someone types into the YouTube search engine cannabis or hemp, cheapers, they pop up right there at the top. Bang, 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 bang. But people like Normal, MPP, Time-4-HEMP, and others who have been working at it for years are down the bottom of the list. So that's because Johnson & Johnson and a lot of major companies like Coca-Cola and, Procter & Gamble, etc. said, we're not going to advertise on YouTube because we don't want our ads alongside ads. Well, they're actually ads, but they claim to be videos that are pro or anti one candidate or pro or anti one type of approach to our society, like abortion or gun control or whatever. And so to make sure that our ads don't appear alongside those types of videos, we're just pulling all our ads from YouTube. And YouTube freaked. And so YouTube started finding us activists who promote re-legalization and making our videos more difficult to locate, and making our videos more difficult to pop up in the search engines, and making it more difficult for our videos to make any type of revenue. And there's a lot of activists on YouTube that are talking about this and have talked about this. So you can go to YouTube. There's even videos on YouTube about how bad YouTube is. So you can go to YouTube and check it out. Ta-da! How cool is that? Well, apparently now that Facebook is doing what they can, I think many people who are involved in activist organizations or in trying to make the world a better place by, like, ending cannabis prohibition, getting medication to patients who need it without them being arrested, that kind of thing. Well, they have found that Facebook is even making it difficult for them to stay connected with their friends, for their friends to be able to read the news feeds that they post and to read their comments that they post. And they're gonna, now that Facebook is going to work and make it a point to end all fake news on Facebook, people who are trying to get the message out about how important it is to end cannabis prohibition are going to become more and more difficult to be found on Facebook and be more and more difficult to be heard on Facebook. And so we do ask that you share us with your friends on Facebook, interact with our post on Facebook, so that Facebook can't ignore the comments that we're saying when, no, prohibition is bad, or the patients that are saying, oh, I need my medication, that we make such a loud noise that they have to allow our message to continue to rise up through their news feeds. So please, please, please share us with your friends. Now, if you think I'm just talking like that, no, I came across a report on the Redacted Tonight broadcast. The gentleman who does the program is funny. I tell you, he's brilliant. I just love watching his work, and I'm going to share him with you now. I do ask that you share this information that he is bringing to everybody. He is trying to get this information out to everybody. And so let's help him get it out to everybody.
Facebook has decided that they're going to start prioritizing fast-loading articles in news feeds. Fuck Facebook. I don't even read it anymore. I hear you, but you can't deny Facebook is still where a lot of the world gets a lot of their information. Billions of people learn about what's going on in the world from Facebook, and also images of puppies doing variety of things. This step by Facebook is going to exacerbate the censorship that already exists because of the gutting of net neutrality. So this prioritizes the corporate rule. This just solidifies and cements corporate rule over our information and everything else. This benefits fucking Verizon, Comcast, Time Warner, CNN, Fox News, and big boys, right? The big motherfucking assholes. And also Facebook. Because Facebook, what this will do is this will help what they're calling instant articles. They want to keep you in their little club. They want to keep you on Facebook. They don't want you going off to read an article somewhere else. You know, say, leecamp.com. It's going to undermine the information coming from outside voices. Not to mention, it's going to bump up, let's say, urban, wealthy people as opposed to rural, not as wealthy people, because they are going to have internet that loads slower. This also goes along with the crackdown on what they're calling fake news. Now, some fake news does exist, but the crackdown on fake news also is a crackdown on alternative sources, alternative information that is not in your mainstream media. It's just another way to further cement the corporate rule we live under, the inverted totalitarianism, to use a big term coined by Sheldon Wolin. And Zuckerberg, that fucking skeevy motherfucker, who is clearly running for president, by the way. He hired a former Clinton pollster, for fuck's sake. He went to small Iowa towns to talk to them about the economy. If you're doing that and you're not running for president, then fucking find some friends, asshole. You know who they're using to help create the algorithm that is deciding what is fake news? The New York Times, the Washington Post, and Snopes, and things like that. Yeah, some of the time that's good, but a lot of the times Washington Post is printing shit. They have a $600 million contract with the CIA, for fuck's sake. It's like going to Donald Trump for 4th century BC Greek philosophers. Donald Trump hasn't even read his own books that he wrote, because he didn't write them. I want to read a couple of sentences from Facebook's release on this information. The title is, Improving the Integrity of News Feed. Principles for Publishers. Oh, integrity's gotta be good. The goal of Newsfeed is to connect people to the stories they care about most. Who can argue with that? These Newsfeed values, these are Newsfeed values. Oh, it's good I'm glad Newsfeed was raised so well. You know, he's just got a great family, a good, pure guy. Newsfeed is. This work is targeting misinformation, sensational, clickbait, and posts that fall outside of our community standards. Oh, you mean community standards like not letting anyone hear anything about the fact that we're bombing the shit out of Yemen? The fact that there's the worst famine and cholera outbreak ever going on right now? It seems to be things that fall outside of mainstream corporate America's standards, too. The things that cause people to get angry and stand up against this debt slavery we live under, against this systemic racism we live under, against this profit over people we live under. Bullshit! This is a form of censorship. So large corps with lots of money and bandwidth always get shown first, while small indies are hidden. It's nothing less than censorship. They're trying to sugarcoat this shit. Get your shithouse Shakespeare on. Right to congresspersons. Here's my mother dilly wobber shit. Still got the shit in there. It's very important. Don't listen. Nobody send out a tweet without the word shit in it. Let us continue to herd the human cattle with all means convenient to progressive reduction of their attention spans below that of goldfish. Yes, I actually don't remember what he said. So, yes, one answer is to avoid Facebook, but there are others, such as having multiple ways to get in touch with the news sources you trust, that you value, that are outside the corporate mainstream crapstorm. Don't rely on just the little secret garden that is Facebook, or that is, Twitter, or that is YouTube. Get into multiple platforms. Support the journalism of alternative outlets, all right? Now, we're not subscriber-based, but many outlets are, so fucking throw them $5 a month. Help them grow. Help them get big enough to compete with the Facebooks and the Zuckerbergs of the world. Ronnie Slay Mills, let me guess which articles load fastest. Good point, Ronnie. It's the fucking Facebook articles. It's the corporate state articles. It's the get back in your box, be the sheep, go back, and just abide by the status quo. Not to mention, a lot of it is just vapid nonsense meant to just cover things up. Just, we'll show you one Yemen bombing, and then we'll show you 700 Lady Gaga's underwear, an underground way to make sure you're getting less information. You're getting more of the information that they want to put forward. You're putting your articles on Facebook so that people aren't going to outside sites and supporting the journalism that isn't Facebook, that isn't mainstream, that isn't corporate. That's all I got. Text the word redacted to 444-999 to get signed up for the newsletter. It's free, and it's not corporate run. Keep fighting.
And what he had to say there is pretty right on. I mean, we're going to disappear eventually, and it is hard to compete, you know, with NBC and CNBC and ABC and all the other corporate medias that are trying to let everybody know that cannabis is horrible and that marijuana is bad for you and only bad people smoke marijuana. And we've got a donate button on time-hemp-.com, you know, on our website. And it sure would be nice if people hit that, and like once or twice a month, $4.20. If, you know, 100 people did that once a month, we could put on a new program. We could be heard in another country. We could get a larger demographic so that people who've never had the chance to hear about cannabis as medicine or hemp can make products like hempcrete or hemp walls or hemp clothes can hear about that. And people who are fighting to stay out from behind bars, who are fighting to be free, can have an opportunity to share information with their attorneys. And those who are maybe on the jury pool, I don't know if that's persuading the jury, but you can certainly change minds enough to where jury nullification can play a role in a case that involves cannabis. Go check out jury nullification on the Google. I mean, everybody's going to the internet, right? You don't need to know how to do anything. All you need is a smartphone and a search engine. And then when you're needing to change a tire, you can Google it. Or you need to change your pants, you can Google it. Or you need to change a light bulb, you can Google it. Or need to do brain surgery, you can Google it, right? So go Google forfeiture, first of all, forfeiture and jury rights. There are jury rights, fully informed jury rights. I tell you, a lot of people seem to overlook them, but they've been around since the beginning of our country, and they are part of what helped make our country, and they are still with us today. But anyway, I don't want to get too much on a soapbox. I do want to thank you for tuning in today. I ask that you share us with your friends, because again, that's the only way we're going to be found. If you're looking to reach the cannabis movement with your services or products, give us a call. We have a large audience that would love to hear from you. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, time for help! Yeah.
Your oil and your herbs at the perfect temperature every time. Check us out at magicalbutter.com because it's magical. Okay, there's a lot of science and chemistry involved, but it sure works like magic.
Please share us